Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois Black Panther Party.
All right, well, back to Relatively Conscious. My name is Antonius Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Shout out to the DJ for making our beats.
At DW Made That on social media.
And follow us on social media.
At Kinda Woke on Instagram and Twitter. Relatively Conscious everywhere else. Hit us with a like. Share this with somebody. And let's get the discussion going on Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yes.
Was it everything you wanted it to be, Tony?
Yeah, somewhat, yes. Yeah, it was better than it wasn't as good as Malcolm X, but it was better than Selma. And it was better than A Long Walk Home. Was that what the movie was?
That's an old movie, but yeah.
Yeah. And Mississippi Ghost, that movie. And so
okay, you look, chill. Anyway,
yeah,
I'm ready to fight already because this man said it was your endorsement was too cold.
I mean,
that's hype.
Okay,
so we're gonna just start on the artistic review.
Gotcha.
All right, keep it simple. The merits of the film as a film. I had a great time. I was immersed immediately. When my man, and this is a spoiler review. Watch it on HBO Max. Get a subscription. Get a free trial. I don't care. When my man pulled up in the Humphrey Bogart suit as a fake FBI and stole that car, I was immersed. That hit me with the jazz soundtrack. The lighting was dramatic. You know, the period aesthetic was there. I felt like I was, it's late 60s. It's on.
Yeah.
I mean, from there, they hit me with Fred. The accent still gets me. Like I've listened to Fred Hampton talk. You can only contort your voice so much. And I know Kaluuya was only channeling him to a certain degree. He didn't want to get like a perfect copy. It still throws me off a little bit. But he had the essence of the character. So besides the superficial of him not looking like him and sounding like him like 90% of the way, the character had me. You know what I'm saying? The emotion had me. And then Dominique Fishback murdered. Stanfield killed it. I mean, every cast member. I kept seeing different black actors that I hadn't seen, different shows, different movies popping up here and there. The way they portrayed the gangs, the way they portrayed the police as a force, not historically, but artistically, excellent. The action scenes fire. I could see the limitations of the budget coming through, but as I noticed those things, I noticed their creative workarounds, and I appreciated it nonetheless. And so it was a harrowing tale, from it focused on a nice little period of time, and they skipped over things that that weren't essential to the story, which I appreciate. I mean, an artistic triumph that very much immortalized in film a hero and told his story with all the gravitas necessary.
Yeah, so in films about civil rights era leaders, this is probably in the top 5. And now I think about it, it's only really 3. There was only 2 I really would like beforehand, which was X and Ali. Those were probably my favorite.
Okay, hold on.
Because how many King ones did you really like? I mean, Salem, I don't know. For me, maybe it's a song Glory in itself.
What is Selma, boy?
Sorry, Selma. Maybe Selma for me. I don't know. Maybe it's a song Glory. I don't know what it is. Something about it.
Glory is whack.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about it feels a little too hopeful. I don't know. Something about it's just a little too, I don't know what it is. It's good. He does a very good King. I just don't know. Maybe he's come too familiar with the story, and therefore it feels
it's very familiar. That movie likes to get in granular detail about certain things.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not perfect, but it is good. And I don't want to get into rankings.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is Judas and the Black Messiah was and don't even get me started on the fact that it focused, which is the best thing. Selma does this well. Malcolm X doesn't. Ali doesn't really either. But it focuses on a tight period of time because we know that which is interesting because Fred Hampton is not that famous a character in the wider American consciousness.
Yeah.
But woke black people, quote unquote, love the guy, the hero, the image. And so they Shaka King, writer director, focuses on a tight amount of time leading up to his death that gives us a full portrait of who he is and what he did. And it's very smart to frame it in the context of a conflict between, the figurative Messiah and Judas, because it is a movie obviously about Fred Hampton, but it's not about Fred Hampton. It's about this assignment given to William O'Neill. And that's the storyline. We get the full view of Hampton in all this important context and this wonderful character and but we get a tight storyline as opposed to Ali and Malcolm X, which movies I absolutely love. I agree with you. Yeah. But they cover far wider spans of their life for the sake of doing a biopic. In the case of Malcolm X, his literal whole life. And it's not as tight of a story. It's a bit of a slog to watch. It's very long, and it doesn't have a clear. It does have a clear arc because that's the way he wrote his autobiography, but it's just not as tight as storytelling.
Yeah. Also, though, Fred Hampton's life is the moment he burst onto the FBI's radar. It's 68, maybe 67, and I think he joins the Black Panther Party, in Illinois in 67. 68, he joins the gangs together. He goes to jail in 68 into 69. He dies in 69. And so it's really only 3 years that he is.
Yeah, it's tight.
Yeah. And so you have much less time, so much more stuff to do. And so getting into his character, though, it's probably the best, is one of the best portrayals, as I said, of a Black civil rights figure on film. The movie is very good in its choice of music. The language is very good. If I'm going to go to rankings, I'm backing back up. It would be it's X, Ali, Jackie Robinson's 42, and then this
42, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's good movie, excellent portrayal, but the Disney racism.
Yeah, the Disney racism is a little bit of an issue, though. Funny enough, I think Jackie Robinson would have wanted to be portrayed that way. He was a much more glass half empty type of guy, and of course his voice is so unique. So Chadwick Boseman couldn't portray it, and I think the same thing with Fred Hampton's voice. The thing I came to realize is that Denzel Washington's portrayal of Malcolm X's voice is so unique and so well that when Fred Hampton's listening to a tape of X giving a speech, I could not tell for a second if that was X or that was Denzel Washington giving that speech.
That's why, I'm pretty sure it was the real,
Yeah, I think it's real deal, yeah.
But it's not beyond reason. It is beyond reason. It is possible that that could be Malcolm X. I believe they're both Warner Brothers productions. So they could have been like, let me hold that Malcolm X tape, but why? Yeah. Why would you use a fake one or a theatrical one? Anyway, so the movie is good.
Yes.
Très bien. Okay.
Yeah,
next, accuracy. Okay. Let's talk about that's always a thing with historical, even really based on a true story. It could be contemporary, like Hotel Rwanda was like 10 years after the movie, or the movie happened 10 years after the events, and they changed quite a bit. So let's talk about the accuracy. First off, I want to establish very good on the accuracy. A lot of quotes in the mix.
Yeah.
Not a direct scene for scene, shot for shot kind of thing, which I think is smart because it's artistic work. So they didn't try to make a documentary or a mockumentary, I guess, in that case. But the ideology, the events, the timeline, all very tight. And the portrayal of different, like the Bobby Seale pops up, and who you about to say?
Bobby Rush is there too.
Yeah. So they put in a few different people. They dropped names of different events. Malcolm X, as you said, and they even added a little flourishes like Dominique Fishback's poem, which she wrote. She wrote that poem. The actress did. I always forget her name. Her current name is Akua Njere. but her name is Deborah
Johnson.
Johnson. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. Deborah Johnson in the film. At that time, she was known by Deborah Johnson. And yeah, it was lit, very lit. So I know I got my own historical like beefs I have, but I just wanted to establish historically lit, especially Billy O'Neill. That was like kind of the best, he's the star of the show, more or less. And they got his quotes down. They literally used tape of him, and they had an impersonation of his tapes, which is excellent. Lakeith Stanfield did. And yeah, just fire.
Yeah, they get into his moral dilemma.
Right. I love that part. Humanized.
Yeah, Billy O'Neill is very interesting, and I hate my worry is that people walk away from the film with hatred for him. And his name is Judas. It's even in the Bible, the end of Judas's life is very much sad.
Yeah.
And if you read the Bible straight through, you're like, man, Judas snitched, right? But if you understand the Bible more closely, you understand that Judas was a zealot. He believed that Christ was going to fight the Romans, and that by getting him over to the Romans, it would force his hand, because Jesus kept talking about this peace stuff, and I'm a zealot, I'm ready for you to take, Caesar 101. And so him giving him over was less about, him being crucified, getting him, killed, and more about forcing his hand to make him violent. But when he sees the error in his ways and sees that Peter chops off a guy's ear, Christ puts it back on, and he's like, snap. He wasn't playing. He wasn't really about to turn the world, and so tries to get the money back and decides to kill himself. And Billy O'Neill is the same way. I think he truly believed that the Black Panthers was an organization that needed to be watched by the federal government. And I think he wanted to be an FBI agent, as he says. And he figured that after he was done doing this, he would become an FBI agent. And so that's why he has a conversation with the guy in his house. And he's like, you're going to help me out. And homeboy, of course, I hated that scene. That scene really made me upset. Not because it was inaccurate, just because the way the guy says, I got you, and then he hands him keys to a gas station, as if you didn't see homeboy reveling over your stories and wanting to do what you do, and so I really feel for Billy O'Neill, and the name Judas is fitting, but the problem is I don't think we understand Judas very well in our culture.
I mean, you touched on it. What's it called? I got to quote Outkast on the last track of ATLiens. Big Rube spits a poem. He goes, Jesus rolled with a crew of 13 including himself, a righteous number of righteous men. Even Judas the betrayer came true in the end. And just as much as Judas kills himself, Billy O'Neill kills himself too. Like after, the last interview he gives, that's in the movie.
Called Eyes on the Prize 2.
Yes, Eyes on the Prize. He sees it on television. He sees himself and kills himself. Like he just, it's too much. And it's funny because just like Judas, you point out he's a zealot. Homeboy, it's wild. In the documentary, and then they include this in the film, he argues like, well, everybody's got something to say about my role in the revolution. But at least I was in the mix. At least I had a perspective. At least I was, I marched with the Panthers. Y'all were just on the sidelines watching. And I think that kind of, shows a great deal of his confusion within himself, because he is a Black man. He is a victim in some ways of, the racist past of America. Not to say that we aren't racist now, but that we're far more.
Yeah.
And you don't end up a car thief because you got your whole life figured out, right? So, he was down bad, and the devil offered him a good little deal, and just like Judas, he's like, man, how much silver are you gonna give me? I got, and the whole time, he's conflicted. Not me, Jesus, I wouldn't do that to you.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do it. And he's working personal security for quote unquote the Black Messiah. But on the historical accuracy, one thing that they exclude, they literally just talk over it. It's not inaccurate, but I think it's important to mention the nature of the ice cream trial. One of many bogus trials against Panthers.
Yeah.
And so we've got the ice cream trial. We've got
the Chicago 7.
What they put on Huey?
So there's Chicago 7 for Bobby Seale. And then there's
thank you. And that also gets mentioned in the movie.
Yeah. Huey has 2 bids. For first bid he gets put away for is he stabs a guy. He says he did it in self-defense. It's your discussion whether or not he's a what's wrong for it? Reliable narrator. Reliable source. Yeah. Secondly, they get him for shooting a cop and killing a cop. Now, again, it's his word versus Oakland PD. So and then there's discrepancies in how the idea that and then the cops shot each other. One thing that they don't talk about very much is that the cops are incompetent.
Wait, hold up. Rewind.
Yeah.
Okay, you got Bobby Seale was locked up for bona fide no reason. He was literally in the wrong place at the wrong time, and everybody knows he had nothing to do with the Chicago protests in question. Fred Hampton got locked up for stealing $71 worth of ice cream and distributing it to the neighborhood kids. That's a funny joke, but it's just a funny joke.
Yeah.
Angela Davis.
She happens much later, and I'm gonna come to that in a second.
I'm just saying Panthers getting put on trial in general. And then we got Asada Shakur, who was a victim of police violence.
Yeah.
And is even now wanted, FBI most wanted. How much money did they put on her head?
At one point it was like $1 million, I feel like.
Like crazy amounts. And she's still in Cuba right now, evading the government as one does. And just which leads me to the incompetence of the police. And that, they would cook up bogus charges. They carried out a really trash assassination, and that's one thing that they don't focus on. Like they note that Bobby Seale is being jailed for no reason, and they note that Fred Hampton is jailed for no good reason. At least they have a reason. It's just not. Yeah. It's just garbage. But like that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like he's an actual communist. Like I don't know how is it this hard? And then when they try to kill him, they don't show that police officers shot each other.
Yes. Yeah. The ones coming in from the back door shot the ones coming through the front door because they're idiots. And it's not, it's not an ACAB stance. It's just that you got to be an idiot to clear a house and shoot each other while you're clearing a house. That's just not basic infantry standards. But
most police shootings that go awry is somebody doing something stupid.
Yeah. One thing I would point out is that I think this is very important to understand in the Panthers is that their leaders stay in prison most of the time they're active. I think the downfall of the Panthers starts in 1969 with the killing of Fred Hampton. Huey gets out of jail in 1970. Cleaver's already fled the country. It's pretty much over by that point in time. They create the Panthers in 1966. Huey goes to jail in 1967. Huey goes back to jail in 1968. Huey stays in jail in 1970. Fred Hampton goes to jail in 1960, joins the Panthers in 1968, goes to jail in 1968, dies in 1969. Bobby Seale does a bid in 1969 and in 1970 for different things. Like he is caught up in the trial for the New York 8, I think it's called, where they gave him a trial for something stupid there too. And so the 3 main guys you think of, Fred Hampton, Bobby Seale, Huey P. Newton, stay in jail between 1966 and 1972 or die. And Eldridge Cleaver leaves the country in 1968. So the Panthers can never be what they were because their leadership spent the whole time in jail writing books. I think they touch on that when they talk about when William O'Neill says that Hampton going to jail changed the party, donations fell, and everything kind of fell through afterwards. And that's just very true. Their infrastructure failed once Hampton went to jail. That's why it's so much easier to kill him in 1969.
Yeah, so I think that's something key to understand if you're going to take something from the movie that in context, it's kind of talked about, but there's so many things to cover.
Yeah.
is the COINTELPRO effective counterintelligence. There's a lot of counterintelligence that is done. There's a lot of intelligence collected and a lot of espionage and whatnot. But the most effective thing is just using law enforcement as a blunt weapon against black communists, which aren't people who will be listened to when they write a letter from jail.
Yes.
Right. And so, I mean, one, they did portray the interception of letters from jail, which is, a special kind of evil, but they're already bona fide evil, so it's not that big a deal. And then, but yeah, that removing them from public life and keeping them alive is the most effective way. Assassinating them puts them into martyrdom. Spreading lies about them isn't really effective because black people don't listen to the government anyway. But putting them in jail and removing them from the equation physically, just snatching them up and then putting them on trial before the greater white public is the most effective thing, at least in this assessment of the events, and to destroy the Black Panthers.
We should look at the FBI's tactics, much like how we fought ISIS, which is just chop the head off the snake over and over again. And the leader that takes the place finally would be incompetent enough that it would fall apart, basically. And so once Obama got drone technology, that was all he was doing, basically, pulling the trigger, chop off the head of ISIS over and over again. And so, people have their discussions about that. But that's why it was effective and why you needed very little ground troops to fight ISIS, because it sounds like you just keep killing whoever the leader is. At some point, it's going to get down to the last line leaders they call the military, or the most inexperienced guy be in charge, and he doesn't know what to do. You've lost all your demagogues, so now you got to rely on a leader who only by Hampton's chance knows what's going on. And real quick, before I start talking about J. Edgar, do you know little Bobby Hutton they talk about in the movie who dies?
Yeah.
He was, if I remember this correctly, he's between the ages of 15 and 18 years old. He's a child. Yeah. He had a pretty high job because when Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton are just drawing up the 10 points in the library, little Bobby Hutton falls after them. Is like, I want to be in the Panthers too.
Yeah.
And so
they let me ride. I want to ride too.
Yeah. So
classic gangster movie trope, which I think bears mentioning that Shaka King wanted to make this a civil rights era The Departed.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons why it's a really enjoyable film is it is a gangster movie.
Yes.
Essentially, like in the structure and in the tone, it feels like The Departed, more gangster movies than me.
Goodfellas, a little bit like Scarface.
There you go.
Less bloodshed than Scarface.
Yeah. But the bloodshed was really real. I mean, when the bullets flew, they flew.
Yeah, and so, but I think the reason I brought up Little Bobby Hutton is because people will look at the Panthers and be like, "Wow, if they could do all that and feed all those kids, how did it fall apart?" And one thing I want to point out is that they were just kids themselves. Like Fred Hampton is younger than my younger brother. When he dies, he's 21. He's just 21 years old. So when he starts, he's 19. He's 19 years old in front of a crowd talking about Black power for all the people. And so when there's criticism to make of him, I also understand that he's very young, but also think about how much good he accomplished in that short amount of time. And so it really makes me think about the fact that our politicians and our leaders in the black movement are so much older. And these guys were creating, waves of change. If you got J. Edgar Hoover looking at you, you're creating a wave of change, and you're 21 years old. That's
insane. He had to go.
Yeah.
But by the way, all power for all the people.
Yeah.
And nobody want to say it. And they mentioned other leaders like Bunchy Carter and who they were spying on, Geronimo Pratt. But if we're being real, and I think it's okay to say it, they're young and they're brash, and violence it quickly erupts in the absence of strong leadership because the Panthers are a gang. This is a gangster movie because it is about a gang, and I don't mean that to demean. Like, it's the Black Panther Party for self-defense, and that's all that oppressed people in America have been doing, though. Like, we're different because, you know, we were the bona fide slave class, which puts us in a different, you know, historical sequence of events. But Irish gangs, Italian gangs, Chinese gangs, the Tongs in Old West San Francisco. I mean, like, just every minority, you know, put in the right conditions, which, you know, Chicago in the 60s is the right conditions, and Oakland at the same time, right conditions.
Right.
Well, I mean, figure out one way or another to orchestrate some kind of self-defense. Problem with the Panthers is they were just too good.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Italian mafia was systematically deconstructed. You know, they were moving drugs, and so the Panthers eventually did resort to moving drugs, which is sad. They allowed people to do that in the community, but it's a gang, and that's, I mean, the movie doesn't really harp on that, but it does make it clear to me.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be honest, because gangsters are cool. Al Capone is cool. You know, these are like really conscious gangsters. You know, some Italian gangs are above pushing drugs in the community, and some black gangs are above pushing drugs in the community. And I mean, a hero is a hero. You know, fighting against oppression is fighting against oppression. And I like this. The point of the movie, beyond the humanizing William O'Neill, is humanizing Fred Hampton, because, like, you know, he's far from perfect. He's a 21-year-old who quotes Mao a lot. Like, if you met this guy on campus, you'd be annoyed.
One thing we talk about it being the violence erupting because the leaders are gone. When Little Bobby Hutton dies, Huey P. Newton's in jail. Is after Martin King is assassinated. Eldridge Cleaver, who I have great disdain for.
Yeah, me too.
Or he decides to do something and hit back. And so the story gets convoluted, but they ambush some cops. And then they get stuck up. They hold up in a house. The cops are outside. They say, come out with your hands up. And Eldridge Cleaver tells Bobby Hutton to go out first and strip down to his underwear. He's 16 years old, I think. I think he's 16 years old. He doesn't want to do that, you know? So I think he took his shirt off maybe, and he comes out with his hands up. And an Oakland police officer shoot him, and he dies. And then Cleaver comes out down to his drawers, and he gets taken to jail. And if Huey had not been in jail, and I think Bobby Seale was also doing something else at the same time too. I think he may have been traveling, trying to set up other organizations. That wouldn't have happened, right? They wouldn't have done that because he would have said, "That's stupid. Why do you want to antagonize the cops that way?" You know, if they're messing with black people, then we show up, but you don't go looking for them, basically. And these are the issues that we come to, because just like the Crips were created after the Panthers went away, and they were created to be a self-defense, you know, mechanism, and then that became something totally different once crack got introduced. In the same way, the Panthers are meant to be self-defense, but then when you have a community that is starving and hungry, ambulance can come to play because you can't make money the normal way. You know, and so it's an accurate movie. Is our synopsis. It's accurate, yes. And there's just always more to learn. Question for the audience. Let us know in the comment section or wherever. How do you feel about the movie? Was good, bad? Yeah, just how you feel about it. You know, I'm 2 thumbs all the way up. Show everybody. Show it in school. I always want to show black historical films in school, and you can't because the stuff be like. Yeah. Anyway, it's from Brian. Antonius Brown, I give the film an 8 out of 10. Are we doing numbers? I don't do that. It's good. Watch it. 2 thumbs. All right. Peace. Do it to him,